This is Joe, soaking in brine.
Oh, you're going to be delicious when you're done brining.
Unless it's for too long, then he'll be pickled.
Ah.
Not a fan of pickled Joe, I'm just saying.
No.
What about if the amount of dill is just right?
That's impossible.
Like a dill Joe?
It's one thing to marinate Joe and then carve him up and cook him. It's another thing entirely to have a pickled Joe. No, none of that.
So you want me to be like corned, essentially, like a corned beef?
Could we not call him Pickle Joe? Could we call him Dill Joe?
Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I am JD.
And I am Joe.
And today we're throwing The Mummy onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
The fuck?
If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then make sure you leave us a review wherever you consume your podcasts.
Yeah.
If you do the YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell.
It's true.
We have a website. We give you brainworms.com, and that's where you could join our Funky Fresh Discord server. And if you're so inclined, you can directly support the show by contributing to our Patreon.
And if you can track brainworms, I have a phone number of a good veterinary service.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Uh-huh.
the Mummy.
I was very disappointed that we weren't watching the 1999 Mummy starring Brendan Fraser.
It's just because Brendan Fraser was a snack.
Yeah. He's a very handsome man. Also, that movie is great.
I mean...
Why do you hate fun, Kane?
I don't hate fun. It's just not I wouldn't call it great. The movie was a good time.
It's a great movie.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, JD, what do we know about this movie?
The Mummy was released December 22nd of 1932 in America. With a runtime of 73 minutes, a budget of $196,000, and a box office return of $370,000, coming in number 8 at the U.S. box office of 1932.
Cool.
The Mummy was directed, and I hope I don't butcher this gentleman's last name, but it was directed by Karl Freund. Is that how you'd pronounce it?
Freund, maybe?
Freund.
I read it as Freund, yeah. Like Freud.
Gotcha. Let's go with Freund. Born January 16th of 1890, died May 3rd of 1969. He actually underwent the full mummification process, the very sacred process of preparing the body for the afterlife so he could be greeted by Isis and Osiris. If you believe that, I'm sorry.
I don't.
Yeah.
Good. Just making sure. Old Dirty Bastard temporarily went by the name Osiris, if you remember. Just throwing few facts out here. He did.
Hell yeah.
And it was awesome.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Love Old Dirty. Rest in peace.
I mean, I'm not opposed to protecting our necks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to protect your neck, and especially when the mummy is in the room,
True.
sneaking around in the dark. This whole season, you got to protect your neck.
Yeah, like we got vampires and werewolves, and keep your neck secure.
Yep.
Yeah, coming at you in all forms. So protect your neck, folks. Just a public service announcement from your good friends at the Butcher Block.
Protect your neck.
The more you know.
Anyway.
Yep.
Freund was an Austrian, mostly a cinematographer and a director of a few films, best known for his cinematography work on Metropolis of 1927.
Oh, that rules.
Oh, super rules. Then Dracula of 1931, and a shitload of I Love Lucy episodes between 1951 and 57. Lucy always had some splaining to do. The Mummy was really Freund's only horror film as a director. Everything else was some sort of Hollywood razzle-dazzle, you know?
Sure.
The producer kind of touched down on this person here, as we will through many of the Universal horror films. Carl Laemmle Jr. He was actually born Julius Laemmle, April 28th of 1908, and dropped dead September 24th of 1979.
It's going to be fun. I wonder if after we finish this season, if we could take how many times you've said those words and just make an entire loop of just you talking about this bastard Carl.
Well, I tried to throw in a couple of new tidbits about him. I mean, not to just get redundant on our people, but, you know, he had a wonderful horror career. Was that too redundant?
God damn it.
I guess we'll find out.
Balls. Maybe that'll be like the season special. We won't have to record anything. We could just take my loop of
Just Carl Lamel over and over again.
Yeah, just you
Yeah.
talking about Carl Lamel Jr.
Junior, a.k.a. Julius.
Yeah.
Orange Julius.
Yes, Orange Julius Lamel. So yeah, he had a tremendous horror career as a producer, produced Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Black Cat, and finally, The Bride of Frankenstein.
Woo.
On to the plot of The Mummy. And yeah, this is gonna hurt. We open with a gorgeous view of some ancient Egyptian art and an overlay that reads, "This is the scroll of Thoth."
Isn't it Thoth?
Oh, Thoth. Yeah, there is no R in there. I'm not sure why I pronounced one. I just like the word Thoth.
How about the word throb?
It's like wrath, broth,
That's the word that I like. Yeah, Thoth.
and thought all at the same time. It took
Yeah.
us all to a weird place.
I like to work myself into a Thoth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Throbbing froth?
Yes, a throbbing Thoth.
What about a frothing throb?
Why not?
I don't know. It just sounds gross.
Yeah, it does sound like some odd reference to the body.
Yeah. Frothy, when reference to the anatomy, just sounds kind of icky.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling so frothy today.
Ugh.
Yowzers. That would be like if you decided to take a shower in the morning and not get dressed, you just wore the suds to work.
Sure.
That would be very itchy, I think, pretty quickly, too.
Yeah.
Eventually. And I'm imagining most soaps today would cause some hellacious skin irritation.
Maybe not if you got the, like, Dr. Squatch.
Is this an advertisement for Dr. Squatch now?
I hate those fucking Dr. Squatch ads.
Yeah.
Those ads are so annoying.
They're terribly annoying.
There's always somebody sniffing someone else, and just because you smell good, that means like some attractive person wants to do you now because you.
Yeah, and that like, I kind of want to be Ryan Reynolds guy
Yeah.
that does that. Yeah, I hate those commercials so much. I guess we're not getting that sponsorship. Keep going.
Yeah. Back to the scroll. So I'm sure this mummy didn't smell very good.
I mean, it probably smelled like spices
Yeah.
and dried
Yeah.
flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, there's probably a hint of rot. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, but
Oh yeah, more than a hint. Anyway.
Anyway.
So yeah, there's this overlay that reads, "This is the scroll of Thoth. Heroine are set down the magic words by which Isis raised Osiris from the dead. O Amun-Ra, O God of gods,
Oh, baby.
death
oh,
is
baby.
but the doorway to new life. We live today, we shall live again. In many forms shall we return, O mighty one." And the camera pans around a bit through what appears to be some ancient Egyptian architecture. And then we see a sign which reads, "Field Expedition, Season 1921 of the British Museum." And that sort of sets the stage to meet the likes of Sir Joseph Wemple and Dr. Muller.
played by Arthur Byron, and then Edward von Sloan was Dr. Muller.
And an assistant named Ralph Norton.
Bramwell Fletcher, that poor bastard.
Oh, that poor bastard. He was cracked to bits. So yeah, we're dealing with the mummy they discovered
For science!
for the sake of science.
Bow, bow, bow.
Yep, just digging up other cultures' dead.
Yeah.
For science.
Imhotep.
For science!
Yep.
Yes, that's all about the science. That was their excuse anyway.
Yeah. They weren't just gonna like pillage and put it all in a museum. It was for science.
Yep.
So yeah, the story of Imhotep, we get that a little later in the film, but he really got hosed down good at the end of his life. So anyway, the trio deduced that Imhotep must have been buried alive. The usual knife marks were not present, so it's possible that Imhotep was, into some nutsack religious stuff, possibly.
Wait, what's a nutsack religious thing?
Is that like some Cenobite shit? What are we talking about?
Well, I just don't like anything that I prefer to throw, like, anytime there's a word like Sacramento or sacrilegious, I like to throw nut in front of it because That's more interesting to me.
Huh.
So despite Muller's warning, Norton reads some ancient life-giving scroll out loud.
Did Norton hear a who?
He didn't hear the who, no.
That's Horton.
Oh, it's Horton. Oh, you know, I always get those things confused.
Norton, not Horton.
Edward Norton.
Yes, in American History X.
Right.
Or Fight Club.
Fight Club, yeah.
Yeah.
The Incredible Hulk movie that wasn't very good.
Oh shit, was he Bruce Banner?
Yeah.
Yeah, but was that one as bad as that first one?
Oh, yeah, that one also sucked.
That one was way worse than the Edward Norton one.
Yeah.
I could see him being a halfway decent Hulk. So yeah, despite Muller's warnings, Norton goes ahead and he fucks around.
And I would like to remind everyone that Edward Van Sloan was also in Frankenstein.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
But was Edward Van Halen in Frankenstein?
That was a stupid thing you said, Joe.
Yep.
And now it's, unless you delete it, it's forever. When the technocrats or techromancers are wandering through the wasteland that was
Right.
humanity, one of the technological things they're going to discover of the past is you saying that very stupid thing.
It's true.
So yeah, apparently Imhotep was sentenced to death in his life and the next. So the three realize how fucked they are after unleashing this terrible curse. And Norton,
He doesn't realize he's fucked.
he doesn't know it at first, but he's sitting there cataloging, and then he goes and starts to play games with that box as, you know, Sir Joseph and Dr. Muller are in the room having their little discussion.
I think they were outside. They actually left the
That's right.
building and they went outside to stare at the Egyptian sky.
Discuss their next move under the sky.
Under the sea.
Under the sea.
Are you trying to find Nemo right now? Norton opens up the box.
What's in the box?
Exactly.
What's in the box?
Anyway, he removes the scroll inside. The mummy is now reanimating, creeping around, and he basically snatches the scroll right out from under Norton. Basically, he needs to change his shorts, and then he goes and he cracks, and the mummy takes off with the scroll.
He's only scared for like 5 seconds.
Well, just enough to drop a nice log, and then
What?
he takes this true descent
JG,
into
do you
madness.
spontaneously shit when you're in a state of high excitement? Because
I'm fantasizing that he did, because I
Okay.
think it's funnier that way. Yeah.
Why would you fantasize about a guy shitting his pants?
I mean, if that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge anybody, but
It's funnier. It's funnier, trust me.
Okay.
So he bursts into madness, hysterical laughter.
fails his sanity check.
Yeah.
Fucking nerd.
11 years later, back at the British Museum Field Expedition season 1932.
Do you think that they have alma mater type songs about each field? Like,
What the fuck are you?
trying to put words to it. All right. My brain's just going, no, Kane. No brain work for you. But no, the fact that there are signs depicting what year it is just seems really stupid to me. So I could only assume it's like some weird sorority or some ancient club where they're like the season, like it's like a baseball season or a you know what?
I don't know what
they
the
got
hell
that-
you're talking
That
about.
ballroom, you know, where all the aristocrats are there and they're, you know, people are throwing money around at these science projects, basically.
What?
I don't know, Joe.
Have I lost my mind, or are all of you talking nonsense?
It's possible. We may very well be talking nonsense.
We're talking nonsense.
Yeah.
When I go back to listen to this episode before I make the YouTube video, I'm assuming that I'm going to be completely confused by the gibbering that I've committed.
Yeah, I have no frame of reference for anything that you're saying.
All right, so just to get it out there, I hate how long this episode's going to be but all right, so here's what I'm saying. I know why they did it. They put the sign outside of the place they're working on, which wouldn't have happened. That's just stupid. But
Well, it was also to cue the viewer in on X amount of years had
on
passed.
the passage of time. But the way that JD said it, you know, like JD, say it again. Like, what is it again? It's the British Museum what?
Yeah, it just says 11 years later, basically, the British Museum Field Expedition, season 1932.
Right. And so that immediately popped into my head like homecoming,
Okay.
like high school
You just
dances.
imagine the banner.
Yeah.
Right.
I apologize that happened to me, Joe. I didn't know it was going to offend you so much.
I'm not offended. I just didn't know what the fuck you were talking about.
You sound offended. You
I'm
sound
just
like I've
confused.
crossed some kind of line.
God damn it.
No borders are crossed. Let's just get back to our plot here.
Don't fucking you mad bro me.
So Imhotep has
Mad,
assimilated
bro?
into mysterious. My brain just broke.
You're
Anyway,
welcome.
yeah.
That was my gift to you.
He's basically now a mysterious Egyptian historian named Ardith Bey.
Oh, Boris Karloff, you sexy 8.5 foot tall man, you.
He was amazing in this film.
God bless him.
I'll be honest, he's the only reason to watch this movie.
Or if you just like classic Hollywood, I think that might be a reason.
No, even then. Boris Karloff is just awesome in this movie. The makeup on him, the way he delivers his lines, the way he kind of just fills the room anytime he's on scene.
I wish he would fill my room.
And that dead eye gaze.
Wait, hold on a second. Joe, is your room your butthole?
Yeah, that is the implication. Yeah.
Okay,
He meant fill his space.
we know what he meant.
All his empty spaces. Yeah.
Fill me in like a job application, however you want to.
Nice. That's one of my favorite gross ways to describe that. You got filled out like an
Yeah, like it
application.
Nice.
Oh, I feel gross now.
Yeah.
JD, continue. Tell us about this story.
So we meet Sir Joseph's son, Frank.
Frank Wemple.
Frank the Tank Wimple.
The fuck is wrong with you, Joe?
Just a little old school reference. I could appreciate that.
Well, it's played by David Manners.
So yeah. Then we meet another man, Professor Pearson, and the pair discuss how Norton lost his marbles.
They also discuss how Leonard Muddy played Professor Pearson. They don't discuss that.
That would be breaking the fourth wall if they discussed that.
That could have made the movie a very unique experience.
It's true.
They're talking about how shitty their finds are. That's what they're talking about. They have not plundered. They
Yeah.
have not plundered enough this season.
They haven't gotten enough of other cultures' artifacts to take back to their country.
Can we please get someone to write Spielberg and George Lucas and have them make a new Indiana Jones movie that's like Indiana Jones's great granddaughter? And instead of going and stealing shit from other cultures, she goes to museums and puts those items back.
That would be a great movie. I'd watch that.
Dude, I totally would love to see her having to go through the Temple of Doom to replace the item that was taken.
Tell us about the movie. I'm bored.
You're not bored. You're just stupid.
So
I
we
could
have
be both.
Oh my god. We have Frank and Pearson. They're having a discussion, and then Ardith rolls in on them and presents them with a little chunk of a vessel or some bit of an artifact belonging to the tomb of Princess Akhenaten. Wait, oh my goodness.
Is it Anken S and Amun?
Sure.
Ankhenaten, that looks correct. But the way they said it in the movie, it just sounded different. So
It's because they were probably saying it mostly correct. That's probably what it was.
anyway, Ardith shows them where to dig, and Frank and Pearson employ a team of excavationists.
All right, so I need to talk about this. Okay.
We're never going to get through this.
Shut up, Joe. I don't need you stymieing my thought process. All right. So Imhotep was buried 3,700 years ago, right?
Yep.
The landscape after 3,700 years is not going to be the same.
Sure. Especially in the desert where the wind is constantly blowing sand around.
Right, yeah. So he's going to have no fucking clue where the princess was buried.
Right.
But this dude's using magic.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. Maybe he can sense with magic where things are.
He's like seeing the world through supernatural eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish he had snake vision and we got to see it.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
A little Viagra vision.
Mummy vision.
Oh, that'd be cool.
This movie didn't have as many snakes in it as I might have liked.
Yeah.
This movie didn't have as much mummy in it.
Yeah, also true. It was mostly just that guy.
It had one cat, though.
Yeah, pretty good cat and pretty good dog.
Both are dead, in case you're curious.
Yeah. Because this movie was made in the 30s.
So then we meet Helen.
Just Helen? You're not going to tell us what her last name was in the movie?
Well, because I butcher names so badly.
Why don't you give it a try, JD?
Is it Grosvenor?
I think it was just Grosvenor.
Grosvenor.
Grosvenor?
I don't know. I
Grosvenor.
read an S in there.
It does have an S, but I think the S
It's
is silent.
Okay, Grosvenor. Let's go with that. Helen
Yes.
Grosvenor.
Played by Zita Johann.
Excellent. She happens to bear a striking resemblance to the Princess Akhenaten. And she has a quick chat with Wemble, and they enjoy a view of Egypt together out some ballroom window or a...
It's because Frank Wimple is classically attractive in 1930 standards.
Well, that wasn't Frank she was talking to. That was his dad she was on the balcony with.
Talking to Sir Joseph?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't talk to Frank until a little later.
Okay.
Until he started getting all creeping on her.
Which everyone kind of did in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody took a turn.
Yep. Creeping.
So, cut to Ardith. He's creeping around the museum, and then he's confronted by Sir Joseph, and they have a little discussion. Sir Joseph thanks him and lets him know that they will be keeping the museum open all night in his honor.
Yep. Don't fucking touch me.
That was the message.
Yeah.
That was Ardith's response.
On account of Eastern prejudice.
Yeah, I think that's, was that what it was?
Yeah, that's what he said.
I believe that's what he said. Meanwhile, there's some people dancing in the ballroom. Cut back to Ardith creeping around somewhere in the dark, reading scrolls. And Helen shares a dance with some gentlemen. She is suddenly caused to be in this trance-like state, and she grabs her coat and wanders off.
Fucks right off.
She gets into an Uber, and Ardith is chanting, and so is Helen, and she attempts to get inside the museum.
But it was closed.
To be with Ardith, yeah, but it was closed. So now she's delirious. She's laying on the couch somewhere alongside Frank.
Well, she's not laying alongside Frank. She's just on Frank's couch.
Mm-hmm. And then Frank gets involved.
Yeah, he gets a little too close. He enters her bubble.
Yeah, no respect for personal space.
Yeah, not at all. And so she's rambling on in her sleep, saying words in an ancient Egyptian language not spoken in nearly 2,000 years, along with the name of a man who had gone unspoken since before the siege of Troy. So cut back to the museum where the watchman is clobbered in the dark by Ardith, presumably. He takes off with a few more ancient items, and then we have Frank, Sir Joseph, and Dr. Muller, and they call Helen a doctor.
I said, doctor.
They got a bad case of what?
I was doing lime in the coconut.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, so then Muller and Sir Joseph go off in private again to have a conversation about Helen's delirious ramblings. Frank and Helen have a chat to help her recount her steps before passing out. And that's when Frank lets Helen know how closely she resembles the princess.
Yeah, well, the head. Your head resembles the princess.
Yeah, just her head resembles it.
Mm.
And then he tells her that he thought he's fallen in love with her. Very strange. As Sir Joseph and Dr. Muller converse in the study behind closed doors, Sir Joseph gets a disturbing phone call informing him of the museum's guard had been murdered. So they shoot over to the museum to examine the crime scene along with the police.
Why they would do that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're not fucking crime scene investigators. It's just that whole, old white guy.
Yeah.
Going to save the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing seemed to be missing, and the guard apparently died of shock or fright. But they discover that the dead guard was holding an ancient scroll. And that's the same scroll that got all the bullshit started. Meanwhile, Frank he's trying to mac on Helen. He's propping up her pillow and pillow talking and getting into kissing range.
Yeah, getting all up in her personal space.
Too much getting into the personal space.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, he's trying to do his game.
It's a love game?
Yeah, his love game, his creepy love game.
Do you love me? Are you playing those love games with me?
Oh, when you do it, it's fine. But when I do it, it's not. I see.
It's not. It's not. It's only when I do it.
Yeah. It's funny when you both do it, though.
Hopefully my microphone is not getting that ice cream truck.
I don't hear it.
Fuck, now I'm jealous. I'm so sad. I wish there was an ice. I would stop this podcast right now.
Kane and I wouldn't be mad at you, Joe, if you just ran downstairs for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can just go buy ice cream. You're fully an adult.
You could, but how much more fun is it to chase the ice cream truck down the block?
Exactly.
That's fair.
Fuck.
And so anyway, Helen and Frank are now pulling some tongue as
Whoa.
Sir Joseph and Dr. Muller
What
waltz
the fuck
into
is
the room.
pulling tongue?
They're making out.
Nobody calls it that.
Nobody ever says it's pulling tongue.
I've heard it before. That's why I said it. I didn't invent it.
What the fuck is pulling tongue?
They're pulling each other's
swapping
tongues.
spit.
They're swapping saliva.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tongue dancing, I think I've heard before.
Ooh, nice. That's a good one.
Tongue twirling. I've never heard pulling some tongue.
Yeah, nobody calls it that.
Well, I don't know.
All right, well, that's going to haunt me.
So they realize that Helen is stricken with the curse and in turn will affect Joseph's son, Frank. Yeah, so the curse can be transformed through sexy time, apparently.
Ooh.
Frank, Sir Joseph,
Like
and
It
Dr.
Follows?
Muller, apparently, they go have a chat in another room and they discuss the scroll. And then Ardeth shows up with his piercing eyes, and he puts a spell on the servant that answers the door.
I put a spell on you.
Nice.
He really did. So then Ardeth sneaks upon sleeping Helen. She awakens and is instantly engaged by Ardeth. And they seem to be vibing, though, a little bit. There's a thing happening there, and Ardeth definitely has a boner.
Wait, what? It doesn't show that, though. All right.
You know, you don't see it, but it's
implied.
It's implied. He's hard. Back in the study, Frank,
damn it.
Sir Joseph, assholes. Frank, Sir Joseph, and Muller, they notice that Ardeth is in the other room with Helen, and that freaks them out a bit. So they decide to hide the scroll and get their asses out there in case he tries some shit. In the meanwhile, Helen and Ardeth continue to face each other, eyes locked, as the three men quiz Ardeth. Now, he's just not breaking his gaze from Helen. Helen lets on that she'd attempt to get into the museum while Ardeth was inside. Now she's going on a rant. She's like, I've never felt more alive.
I can feel it calling in the air tonight.
But anyway, she gets escorted home regardless, doctor's orders. Muller and Sir Joseph, they just want some alone time with Ardeth to grill him on whatever type of shit he'd been up to.
It was nefarious. Spoiler alert.
Yes, nefarious activities. Anyway, they propose to Ardeth, just some questions and prodding. They're trying to figure out his thoughts about the possibility of Imhotep, the mummy, walking off on his own instead of being stolen, on account of the curse from the scroll. Ardeth doesn't really answer, and he counters with informing them that he purchased the scroll and he has the rights to it. He then tells the two men that he knows they are full of shit and that he believes the scroll to be in their house, hidden somewhere.
Way up their butts, probably.
Ardeth demands that the two men give the scroll to their servant, who is now under Ardeth's spell. Shit goes extra supernatural as Ardeth takes off to go do some magic shit, and Sir Joseph...
So Sir Joseph dies. Ass up.
Yeah. Well, we think he's having a gripper or he's being magically choked out.
Wait. Did you just refer to a fucking heart attack as a gripper?
Yeah. You grab your chest and you're like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I knew what the fuck you were talking about.
But then it looked like he got choked out like Darth Vader style, because then he goes for his throat. And
Yeah, it does.
so it was confusing. I'm not really sure how he died, but it was the work of dark magic. So
Sure.
anyway, the servant steals the scroll, and it also seemed like Sir Joseph burned it. But then Dr. Muller and Frank have a quick conversation before driving off to see Helen. Well, I'll leave that part out. I wrote down some nasty stuff, but anyway.
Oh, now you're...
Of all the times that you've talked about like fucking pearl necklaces and all this other stuff,
Pearly white lassos of semen, things like that.
now is the time.
This sure is going to be a fun episode for me to edit.
Yeah, sorry, Joe.
Joe, I don't need you to complain. All right? I need you to pay attention to the fact that something in JD's notes was so awful
Yeah, now I'm curious.
that he deemed it,
Too hot for TV.
yeah, too hot for TV.
Unfit for the Butcher Block Horror Podcast. Oh, it's no big deal. Anyway, on the car ride over, Muller and Frank realize that Ardeth has the fucking scroll. Muller gives Frank a protective amulet. Helen pays Ardeth a visit, and he puts her in a trance again, and gives her a view into the past through a pool of dried ice. The tale of their romance from the past, but also how he got into the shit that they're into today, basically. Then Ardith gets all pissy and jealous and scares away his own cat, and he begins to believe that he needs to kill Frank so that he faces no competition over Helen. Helen and Frank are now having a heart-to-heart. Frank professes his love again, and Helen realizes that she has been under Ardith's spell all along, and she pleads with Frank not to allow her to wander off again. So Frank vows to protect her. It turns out that Helen is tweaking now because she's
like
in
meth?
this room. Well, maybe. She's in a room with the nurses who are, vowed to watch over her, and she's trying to con them into helping her escape. Now we have Helen, Frank, and Dr. Muller, and they talk it over, and the three realize that she will periodically be under Ardith's spell. So Muller devises a plan.
And then they all kiss.
A lot of similarities to Mina Harker.
Yeah,
Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Yes.
definitely.
The fact that she's in and out of Imhotep's spell,
Right.
Yeah.
very similar to what happens to Mina Harker
For sure.
with Dracula.
That tracks.
True dat. Their plan, though, is to allow Helen to go to him next time he summons her so that they may follow her, find him, and destroy him.
With fire! No.
He tries to choke out Frank through the same magic that he used to jack up his father. He then summons Helen to his lair. Helen and Ardith are now face to face, where Ardith describes to her how she must die so they may be together for eternity. And Helen acknowledges that she is the princess, but she's also tethered to her new reality in her young body and current existence as Helen, and she begs for her life and tries to free herself from Ardith. Muller finds Frank unconscious and wakes him up, and the two jet off to the museum to help save Helen. Dr. Muller and Frank, they pull up on Ardith's ceremony right before transforming Helen, and their voices snap her out of the trance partially.
Yeah.
And then Helen talks to a statue. This is where I thought it got real fucking weird. It points the symbol at Ardith, and it turns him back into a mummy.
That's not what happened at all.
No? Well, what happened then?
So here's what's happening, right? Helen has the reincarnated soul of Princess Ankes and Amun, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And as the princess, she knows she loved Imhotep when they were alive, but she's like, no, I'm in a new body and I want to see this out. I want to live this life. And I'm young, I want to live this life.
Mm-hmm.
And the original princess was a priestess of Isis.
Yeah.
And the statue that she beseeches is a statue of Isis. And essentially, she kind of bows before this statue of Isis and repents. And it's like, Isis, please, I've learned my lesson. I won't commit the heresies against you again. And in response to that, Isis destroys the scroll that gave the mummy life. So then Imhotep turns into a mummy, and then we assume a bag of bones. Like he just completely disintegrates because we don't see him again.
Right. He crumbles.
But that wasn't weird. Like that was actually one of the cooler parts of the movie for me was the fact that she beseeches Isis,
Right.
and the goddess hears her, deems her worthy, and does some work. Proving what Dr. Muller says at the beginning of the movie, that the Egyptian gods still hold sway here, even if it's just a little bit. God, was I the only one watching this movie? Jesus.
That made sense. I just was letting you explain it.
Yeah, and you did a good job. And I just meant in the supernatural sense of, and it all made sense, but
Yeah.
I just felt like, wow, it went to the next level there. It was good.
The expanded universe of the Universal Studios monsters is very interesting.
It is.
Once you realize like all of these things can coexist.
So yeah, then Frank basically is able to talk Helen back to snapping out of it into her current existence, and then the end.
The end.
Roll the credits.
Yep. Credits were rolled. The music in this film was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
James Dietrich did an amazing job scoring this film.
Yeah, music was great.
And he didn't do what a lot of films do, especially even like nowadays. A lot of films do is they'll like put in a hokey this is what we think Egyptian music
Right.
sounded like. Like, none of that was there. It was all atmospheric. It was pretty fun. Joe, why don't you tell us about the cinematographer and the writer?
How about you get fucked?
Oh, you're so edgy.
No, the cinematographer was Charles J. Stumar, born in 1890 in Hungary, the brother of John Stumar, who was also a cinematographer. He shot 110 films between 1917 and his tragic death of a plane crash in 1935.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he was really making a lot of movies.
Do you think that Karl Freund was up his ass the whole time? Because Karl Freund was a cinematographer?
Well, that's actually interesting. Apparently, he was inspired by Karl Freund's aesthetic, and the lore says he tried to apply it himself, specifically in the movie Awu, the Werewolves of London in 1935.
Interesting. That's super cool, actually. Like, oh, I'm going to shoot this movie that Carl's directing, and he's kind of my hero, and that's awesome. I kind of enjoy that.
I think so too. His horror, fuck me, his
words much.
My tongue is too big for my mouth.
My tongue is too big for my mouth.
What the fuck voice was that?
It's a good question.
Sound like a South Park character.
His horror credits include Hunchback of Notre Dame, Awu, the Werewolf of London, The Raven, which starred both Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, and The Secret of the Blue Room, which was another, like, you have to spend the night in this haunted house kind of movie.
Right.
But the prize was, because it was the 30s, you get to marry this beautiful woman and not like a bunch of money. Yeah, it's gross.
Well, I mean, I guess if she's into it, like she gets a lot of money. Like there was like a series of steps, right?
Right.
Like if you stay in the house, you get to marry her. And if she agrees to marry you, she gets millions of dollars.
Right.
See? So it's like, it's like a cascading effect where she's like, oh, whatever.
I haven't seen the movie. The synopsis suggests that they were doing it to prove their bravery to win her love.
Okay.
You can unpack that. I don't know. It's kind of icky, I think, but
yeah.
I don't know. It sucks.
Everything sucks.
Everything sucks. I can talk about some writers, though.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Sure.
Fuck.
I mean, not if you're going to call me a fuck.
I'm sorry, that was unnecessary.
No, God damn it.
It just seems like a really inappropriate time to call you a fuck. And so my brain was just like, you should probably call him a fuck. And it was like, all right, brain, here we go.
I'm going to be an asshole to my friends for no reason.
Do your damnedest.
Anyway,
yeah.
The story was a collaboration between Nina Wilcox, who is a screenwriter most honestly known for The Mummy. She started out as an accountant and is credited as being one of the adventures of the 1040 tax form.
Okay.
Boo.
Right. She's mostly known for writing comic strips and novels and children's books.
And short stories.
Yeah, she does have a few film credits, but none of them are horror. And she collaborated on the story with Richard Sayer, another, golden years of Hollywood screenwriter. Not a lot of information about him. Apparently, he didn't have a very interesting life. He did have some horror credits, though. He wrote Murders in the Rue Morgue, The Mummy's Hand, and Devil Doll. He also had a very minor credit for scenario editing on Frankenstein, which was buried so deep in the credits for that film that I didn't notice it when we talked about Frankenstein. So I don't know how much he did or didn't contribute.
Right.
Those two collaborated on the story, and then the screenplay was written by John Balderston, who I talked about in detail on the Frankenstein episode.
Right.
And I'm not going to go back over a ton of that.
No, that's fine.
But I will reiterate that he was, as a journalist, present at the opening of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1923, which may or may not have inspired this movie. And all three of those writers have been credited on the 1999 Brendan Fraser The Mummy movie and any other associated media as based on characters created by, which is kind of cool. And that's all I have to say about that.
Excellent.
But it is funny that these writers from like the Yeet Golden Age have their names on like the Mummy video game.
JD, why don't you tell us about the special effects?
Yeah, well, really, it all kind of comes down to Jack Pierce again. All of the amazing makeup on Boris Karloff as both the Mummy and Ardith, all of that was performed by Jack Pierce. Same effects. Not sure exactly what else to say. I mean, Pierce was just involved in quite a lot of Universal horror films and kind of whipped up all those latex and makeup effects. Early pioneer of sorts. It's really all there is to say about it.
I mean, it's good stuff.
Yeah, responsible for Dracula, Frankenstein, White Zombie, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, and Werewolf of London.
Ow!
Awooga.
Bam, 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 bam. All right, well then let's go ahead and talk about our personal experience with the film. Joe, Start us off. Do it now, you fuck.
God damn it. Yeah, I mean, I saw this movie in the 90s when I saw a lot of the other Universal Studios horror movies. They would put them on TV around Halloween time. I remembered there being a lot more Mummy in this movie.
I remember specifically that it wasn't, so it's
Okay.
interesting that you thought there was more Mummy.
Sure.
Some of the sequels have more Mummy.
Right. It's a fun movie in the way of, you know, the classic Hollywood films from that era. It looks very nice. You know, the actors are doing their best. Gross attitude toward pretty much anyone who isn't a white man.
Right.
Doesn't treat anybody well who doesn't fit into that qualification.
Yeah, I mean, seeing as that they referred to the servant in the credits as the Nubian, who was played by Noble Johnson.
Yeah, not great. Not really a horror movie. More of like a drama that has some
Spookiness attached.
spookiness and some Egyptian magic kind of stuff. But yeah, it's good in the way of like a very well-made classic film from the golden age of cinema, but I don't have much use for it beyond that.
Right, I feel that. JD,
Yeah,
your personal experience with the film.
absolutely. I definitely watched The Mummy as a very young person, a wee tyke, and I was always impressed and interested with, you know, how that movie overlapped with ancient Egyptian folklore and things like that. You know, obviously those ceremonies are symbolic in different ways, but I think in my child brain I was always very interested in going to see, like, I think there was an exhibit at the Field Museum at a point in time when I was pretty young where they had I forgot which of the sarcophaguses was being presented there, but you know, seeing the movie around that and like seeing actual historical artifacts, like things that existed, it made it like a step or two creepier for me. So I always kind of appreciated this movie for that reason, just having seen a particular exhibit and then this kind of played into my imagination. So I think that was the tool that they used to add that little spookiness to it. Yeah, I agree. It was more of a drama with a twist of spooky. And yeah, without a whole lot of information, I'm sure, you know, not everybody was completely educated on ancient Egyptian culture. So there were probably just enough holes in there to be used to scare you extra, I suppose. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. How about you, Kane? What's your personal experience with the film?
Watched it with my dad. Wasn't really impressed back then.
Yeah.
I haven't really rewatched it since then.
Yeah.
So it was kind of fun to watch it with you guys because while I remembered some of it, I didn't remember all of it. So some of it was like new. Definitely didn't feel horror. And I feel like it didn't feel horror back when I watched it then either.
There were some horrific sights, though. I mean, like I said, the Jack Pierce makeup job of the Mummy, you know, that
just looked cool.
Yeah, the Mummy makeup was real cool.
it looked super cool. And Ardith's face, too, you know. And I mean, a lot of that is just to the credit of Boris Karloff and his penetrating eyes. And
yeah, that's what I was going to say was it's just, you know, is the only reason to watch this movie is for the scenes with Boris Karloff in it.
yeah.
His ability to like suck the air out of the room and just make it his own is pretty substantial in this film. But the opening, like when he's first coming back to life and you're like watching him break away from being in the sarcophagus, the cracking of the like skin and everything like that really looked like all of the moisture had been removed from his corpse. Like it looked that way, and that was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But that was pretty much it. You know, it's a good movie. I'll probably watch it again in the future.
Absolutely. It's a classic.
Does anybody have anything else to say?
No, I'm done here.
Yeah.
All right. If you watched The Mummy, let us know what you think. You can find us at wegiveyoubrainworms.com.
Mm-hmm.
Remember to review us on any podcasting sites. If you're YouTubing, we warn you against forgetting to like and subscribe.
And lick the bell.
No, Joe, no. Nobody's licking the bell.
You got to headbutt the bell.
Or click it. Okay? I swear.
Click it or lick it.
Oh, gross. Next week, we're covering Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which I'm pretty excited
That'll be
about.
fun.
Yay.
That was one of my favorites of these era of movies.
Well, because you get a dose of a lot of the Universal horror characters.
You really do. You really do. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Au revoir. There's always somebody sniffing someone else.